These are three of the most popular Roblox developers, starting off with Nikilis. Nikilis started playing Roblox in 2008 at only 11 years old. He quickly had an interest for the game and developing. And 6 years later, in 2014, at the age of 17, he made his first game, Murder Mystery. The game was quickly a success in the first week with hundreds of players joining. The game was simple. There are three roles: the murderer, the sheriff, and the innocents. The murderer's goal is to kill everyone other than themselves. The sheriff's goal is to find and kill the murderer, and the innocent's goal is to survive and try and help the sheriff. And only 3 months later, after release, Murder Mystery 2 officially reached 10 million visits. And only 1 month after reaching 10 million visits, in June 21st of 2014, Nikilis officially wins the Blox award for the most visited game. After that, there weren't updates for months until December 27th, where Nikilis released the successor to Murder Mystery, Murder Mystery 2. Murder Mystery to revamp the whole game and also added codes. Everything was going smoothly for Nikilis until the summer of 2015, where Murder Mystery 2 would completely break because of a glitch, causing Murder Mystery 2 to reach a record low of 20 players. This glitch would last a big part of the summer, but fortunately Nikilis was able to fix this and Murder Mystery came back to the usual player count. 2016 was an amazing year for Nikilis. Lots of YouTubers started making videos on Murder Mystery, which made the player count skyrocket. But this wouldn't be the peak of the game, cause in the later years, the player count would grow even more, breaking records with the release of Season 1, having a record-breaking 65,000 players. The game would still be averaging 40,000 to 70,000 during Season 1, however, when the Halloween update 2020 started, the game would reach a peak of 110,000 players, and now the game still averages an insane 150,000 players. Nikilis' story surely was interesting, but let's move on to the next developer. Mygame43, the creator of Blox Fruits. Mygame43, just like Nikilis, started playing in 2008 and liked the game, so he decided to start developing with his brother, Rip_Indra. And 8 years later, they released their first success, Elemental Wars. It was a fighting game with many elements which you could use like fire, water, and lightning. The game was loved by the community, and only 2 months after the release of Elemental Wars, the brothers released the sequel to Elemental Wars, Elemental Battlegrounds, and it was an even bigger success, with currently having 400 million visits. It was a better and more polished version of Elemental Wars, and people wanted more updates, but Mygame43 and Rip_Indra had other ideas. So now the brothers had the choices: keep updating Elemental Battlegrounds, or risk it all by making a new game. What did they choose? They made the new game. And that's how Blox Piece was created in January 2019. At first, the game was getting 10,000 players, and the brothers added frequent updates, with getting usual 40,000 player peaks every update, especially when the World to Update dropped, where the game would peak at 70,000 player, but everything changed in the update 15. The third C update, where the game would reach an insane 170,000 players, which would be the most players they got yet, and after the update the game would average 100,000 players. But people were starting to get mad because of the lack of updates the game was getting, with only getting an update every 2 to 3 months. So every update the game would reach new peaks, until the update, which happened on the 10th of September 2022, which is when update 17 part 3 happened, also known as the Leopard update, which is where the game would break records at 500,000 players. By now they were already the #1 game on the platform. And by now the game was averaging 400,000 players. But they didn't stop there, so they continued updating the game, and there were more and more players joining every day. But disaster struck in January 9, 2023. The game would get hacked, and the game was under control of the hackers for a few hours until the developers fortunately got control of the game again. Shortly after the hack, the Valentine's 2023 update was released where the game would peak at 800,000 players. We went through the history of Blox fruits, but where is it now? Currently, the very peak of the game is of 1 million players and it averages 500,000 players. We have went through the story of both Nikilis and Mygame43. So now we only have one developer left, Newfissy, the creator of Adopt Me. Newfissy started playing Roblox in 2011 and he had interest in developing, and only 3 years later in 2014, he made his first game called The Roblox Plague, and it was a success with currently having 7 million visits. It was a simple game. There was one player with the plague and he had to infect other players. 2 years later, Newfissy started developing another game called Triolins. It was a building game and it was an even bigger success than the plague with currently having 16 million visits. The game had a strong fan base and it was very famous, but disaster struck when one of the developers died, which caused the game to no longer get updates. After Triolins not getting any more updates, Newfissy and his team decided to make a new game in 2017 called Adopt Me. It was a huge success with many YouTubers making videos on the game, which at the time made it the most popular game on the platform, but the game would really blow up in 2020. Thanks to the lockdown, the game would average 500,000 players and get 800,000 players every update. The game was now the biggest game by far, and 2020 and 2021 were the all-time peaks of the game. But nothing lasts forever, and in mid-2021, the game started falling in popularity, cause some other games started to grow more and more, which made the game fall in players every day, with averaging 140,000 players in early 2022 and 300,000 players every update. While it is still a ton of players, it's not even close to what it was before. So, we have went through the history of Newfissy's games, but where are they now? Both Triolins and The Plague are currently privated, and Adopt Me currently averages 80,000 players. And while it's still a lot of players, it's not the same as its former glory. We've now went through the story of these 3 developers, and all of their stories were interesting. Mygame43's story showed that sometimes you need to take risks to succeed. Meanwhile, Nikilis' story showed that you need to have patience if you want your game to succeed. And lastly, Newfissy's story showed that just cause your game isn't at its peak, you shouldn't give up on the game. This is my first video, so hopefully you liked it. Also like and subscribe if you want.